What's up, you guys? This is Sarah Ripple with Ripple Effect Fitness here again to give y'all a little helpful tip. This can be applied to pretty much any exercise that's done on the ground, okay, which is most of the things we do, unless we're talking hanging or, whatever. But a very, very simple cue that I use with my clients that typically cleans a lot of movement errors up is to think about pushing down into the floor or the ground. Um, so I mean, it's really basic if you really think about it, but that one thing fixes a lot of shit. Okay, so if we're talking, the two exercises that I'm going to demonstrate are going to be a marching bridge and then a just a loaded march. Okay, so but we can also think about when we overhead press, if you think push the floor away as you press up, that really will help, I promise. Because what happens is it creates a more stable base from which you press overhead. Anything else, curls, I mean, any exercises for upper body, but then also, of course, for talking deadlifts, Olympic lifting, squatting, things of that nature. So we want to always think about pushing away from the floor and lifting up instead of letting everything sag down. That's just bad. Okay. So just to demonstrate, a marching bridge is a pretty basic variation that a lot of people do. Okay. Make sure I've got some room here. So essentially, just a basic hip bridge. We want to make sure that we tilt the pelvis, get it neutral. For most of y'all, that's going to mean doing a posterior tilt. We don't want to be arching up here. So I like to have my clients, if they're not using any sort of ISO hold or anything like that, my actual preferred variation to start people off with is with an ultimate sandbag, pulling the handles apart and then creating tension and then adding the bridge from there. Okay. So if you don't have anything to hold, you can drive the arms down into the floor. So we're thinking pushing down, but then we're also thinking pushing into the floor at the feet. Okay. So that comes in handy for any bridge variation you're doing. All right. But if we're talking the marching bridge, what I've found is when people do this and we're not really like, if you have a client do this without any instruction to fix things. Typically, what will happen is people will get really task oriented with lifting the leg up and really just focus on that. So then the leg moving becomes what the fixation is versus trying to keep the hips stable and not rotating or anything crazy, because essentially nothing should change through the hips as we march the legs. All right. So what I've found is when I have people do these, if I just simply say, push the non-moving leg down to move the other leg up, that makes them lock things in better and it just creates a better movement. Okay, so simple. So just pushing the ground away. So if we're talking loaded marches, in here, of course, we can do ultimate sandbag. So either a front load or we could go this load too. We could bear hug it as well, however you want to do it. But the key here is, again, we want to think about pushing the floor away. So my left leg is still a little wonky. So y'all bear with me as far as like my balance goes. But typically, if I just have someone, if I just cued somebody to do a loaded march, just said march for a minute, they'll kind of think about the leg that's moving up instead of the stance leg. And then what can happen is that knee will bend or they'll kind of sag or sink this way. So with the sandbag, we're pushing it into the body, creating tension through the torso. That does a lot of magic right there. But then if I just say, focus on the leg pushing through the floor, and then, the other leg will come up, but we're not as focused on the moving leg, that makes it a lot better. So y'all can go with goblet load, same thing. We're not trying to get the knee any higher or the thigh parallel to the ground. We don't need to go any higher than that. But that's basically what I wanted to cover here is that one simple cue, push the floor away, fixes a lot of shit. We'll catch y'all next time.